we just watched Avatar. I know
Yes, sir.
everyone's watched Avatar. I mean, in 14 days, it broke $1 billion in the box office. Yeah. So
Dang.
that's huge.
Yeah.
And it was a long anticipated, long awaited film.
Yeah, I mean, what, 10 plus
10
years?
plus years
Yeah.
in the making.
Yeah.
And for whatever reasons it took that long.
Yeah.
Was it worth it?
Was it
Was
worth
the
it?
wait
I
worth
mean,
it?
you have to look at what he's doing with the series or
Absolutely.
with Avatar, like as a whole now,
Right.
because you can't, like, you look at the first movie and it was kind of more of a standalone film, I feel like.
Absolutely.
And you could look at it as a standalone film.
Right.
And I really do like the first one a lot. And then to wait 10 years later, you kind of have high expectations going into a second one. But the thing is, it doesn't, like, he already has a bunch of movies set. So it's kind of
Lined
like,
up.
Yeah. So it kind of seems like he's more of going to build like a cinematic universe, I guess.
So back when you were a little kid, right, watching the first movie, in your head, did you feel as though this story can continue? Or was that something you didn't really think about?
With how expansive the first movie was, I could definitely see it continuing for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just didn't know if it was ever going to happen or not. I don't know. It was always kind of like speculated that he was going to come out. Oh, is Avatar 2 coming out this year? You
Right.
know, 10 years later, we're like, I don't know.
Because for the longest time, there wasn't any news that it was in production, that it was being written or anything, right? I didn't hear anything personally.
No, I didn't really either.
And it's funny because even my dad would ask me, like, yo, is the second one coming out? I'm like, bro, I don't know. Like, I haven't seen anything.
No, I wasn't like convinced until I saw the trailer. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
that's when I was like, okay, it's actually happening. And I couldn't have been convinced otherwise with how long it had been without seeing the trailer that it was happening.
Yep. And as long as we waited, it translated into a super long film, 3 hours plus.
Yeah.
And I just wanted, before we go into it, mention that it didn't feel like 3 hours for me, at least.
No,
A 3 hours plus runtime. It was paced pretty well.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna
I thought
lie.
so too.
And it's crazy because like you don't get into the new kind of waterfront oasis chapter of the film until like what, an hour in?
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, so what
The water, like, I mean, it's basically the whole second act and third act, but
Absolutely.
like the world building of the water world is kind of like the whole second act. Like it's really just you kind of exploring this new territory.
For sure.
And it's really beautiful. I mean, it is a beautiful movie. I mean, the shots were like amazing.
The water was crystal clear.
Crystal clear.
It looks like you can jump in there.
Yeah.
It looked
absolutely.
cold.
It did look cold. It did. But I thought that he did a good job. I mean, it was definitely, like I said, beautiful. And
Yeah.
do I think it dragged in a couple places sometimes? Sure. But
Okay.
like,
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Okay.
I
So-
definitely enjoyed it.
So let's get into that. What about the movie did you like? What kind of, stuck in your head? Again, there's a lot to process.
Oh, yeah.
A lot. And after we watched the movie, it took us a while to really try to like talk about it. I remember getting out of theaters and we're like, damn.
Yeah.
There's a lot to dissect there, a lot to digest.
because there's so many new characters that weren't. I mean, he has a whole family now, so you
Yep.
have to introduce
The Solis.
Yeah, the Solis. So what he had, there was four kids.
So it was the
Yeah.
oldest,
Mhm.
and then it was the youngest, the troublemaker.
Mhm.
The youngest
Youngest
daughter.
son.
Yeah, youngest son. Sorry, yeah, oldest son, youngest son, and then you had the youngest daughter, and then kind of like the adopted
Right.
daughter.
A
Which is
reincarnated Sigourney Weaver.
pretty much, which we'll get into. So you
Right.
had kind of this expansive family, and I'm gonna throw Spider in there too, the human boy
Yeah,
that they
yeah, yeah.
described as kind of just like a stray cat. I'm gonna
Yeah.
throw him into the family because he kind of was part of the family.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
And-
yeah.
and he
Definitely
had
a
his
stray
own-
cat for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just the way he hissed and stuff was kind of corny.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. It made me feel kind of ugh. it
Yeah,
was kind of
yeah.
weird, but
He did it a lot.
he did. And,
But I liked his character.
right. So, yeah, you have this expansive family that now you have to write in and kind of include through the storyline. And this film didn't seem more so of a Jake film, but more so of the youngest son film. You
Yeah,
really
yeah,
see his
yeah.
character arc and you see him grow as a character, not as a person, but as an avatar,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
guess.
yeah.
And throughout the whole movie, they're kind of like clowning on him for being weird and an outsider because of his hands. You see he had like the 5 fingers, like a
Right.
human.
That was kind of like it was brought up a couple times, something like that, like with Sigourney Weaver's character, especially too. She was definitely kind of the picked on character, for sure. But like, yeah, I would say as far as who grew the most throughout the film, it was definitely the youngest son.
The youngest son and the whale.
And the whale.
The whale, man.
Yeah, I mean, if we want to get into like some of the things we didn't.
Go ahead. Yeah, what's up?
I would say stuff like that. There was just stuff like a storyline that had to do with a whale that just felt so out of place to me, or it just felt like it didn't feel out of place, but it just felt like a side quest.
Okay.
Like it just felt like completely like its own thing. And my thing was too, I guess it wasn't solely, but it was very prominently about this youngest son.
Yeah, right.
You saw him grow a lot, which is great, but you got 3 other characters, and not to say that they didn't. I think Sigourney Weaver's character, they definitely, the rebirth of Sigourney Weaver, I suppose.
Absolutely.
They kind of like explained her background a little bit. I mean, if you were to talk about the oldest son, though, we didn't get much on him.
Not really. I mean, I feel like the oldest son was there to kind of show the spin image of Jake and how he really followed as like, you know, the head of the family afterwards. He's growing into this strong soldier who should look out for his family, and that's how he was being raised. The youngest son, the kind of the misfit, the one that wasn't really seen or kind of pushed aside. I mean, I feel like maybe a lot of younger kids and their families can kind of relate, but he was definitely playing that role, or at least they wrote him into it. And I feel like maybe it was a little kind of pushed. Yeah. Like, oh, he's like the misfit kid who doesn't really fit in. He wants to be heard. I mean, I don't know. Was that really believable to you?
It just was pushed so much. Like that was that was a main storyline. It happened once, and then it happened again, and then I think it happened again. Like there was like 3 instances where it's like, you know, kid, what are you doing? Like, why are you like? He just solely getting mad at him, basically. Absolutely. Or Jake getting mad at him.
Yeah.
And just it felt like it was repetitive a little bit in that sense to me.
Yeah.
But
I agree.
I like his character. Not that I don't like his character. I just would have liked to like. Do we want to get into spoilers, or what are we doing?
Yes, absolutely. Okay, let's get into it.
All right, well then let's spoil it. The oldest son dies in this movie,
which it didn't impact me as much as I thought it would.
It didn't. It almost didn't hit me at all because I feel like I didn't see him talk throughout the movie at all.
As much.
Like barely at all, I felt like.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, if the oldest son is supposed to kind of be the one who is there to kind of inherent, like, you know, the head of the family and supposed to be strong-willed, learning from his dad, there wasn't enough pushback between the oldest son and the youngest son. You know, they're always goofing around, and Jake was scolding the oldest son, like, you're supposed to be watching over him. Oh, I know, Dad, I know. No, like, it should have been more so of like a clash between like the oldest son and the youngest son, like some responsibility. Like, what are you doing? Why are you going out of, you know, doing these stupid things? You're supposed to be learning, etc. So I don't think there was too much clash between those 2 characters to kind of reinforce the differences between them, you know? I
agree. Yeah, I feel like that was unbelievable to me, was the oldest and youngest son's dynamic, I guess. Because it just felt like it just be like these like one-liners, like the youngest son would say something like, oh, you're just the perfect kid, you're the perfect child, dad, like your dad's favorite, blah blah blah, you know, all this. And it's kind of like,
is he though? I didn't believe it.
I don't know. I didn't get to know him enough to like,
I
literally that. So if they, like we said, they're making more movies, so maybe they have a chance to explain more of the oldest son's you know, backstory. But I don't know, I did not feel much at all when he died, to be honest.
But like, you know who did? The mom.
Yeah.
Dude, she went crazy
dude.
after his death, which I really liked.
Favorite scene in the movie for
me.
Absolutely.
She just went insane, which is believable. I mean, her mother just lost her child and has to put those emotions away in order to keep fighting. Oh my God, dude. The way it translated into just her emotions, I felt that. I was like,
I felt it. I believed that. Bro. I believed every second of that.
Yeah.
Like, she went crazy on them, and you could see it in her eyes. Like,
absolutely.
After she got kind of got done, you know, going through her whole rampage, like, she literally like can't calm herself down. Her adrenaline was just like pumping so much. That was epic.
That was a great scene. That definitely stood out the most for me.
Same.
Going back to the youngest son and how he has that like character development of like, oh, I'm the misfit, the child that's kind of stood out. They introduced the whale to kind of parallel that character development, right? So now he has a connection with the whale, who was also kind of abandoned by his fellow whales, right? Because he was framed for the murder of all these different people and whales and stuff. So
yeah.
How'd you feel about that?
I don't know. The whole whale thing to me, I get the push to, have, I guess, push for ocean safety and,
absolutely.
And all that. Great. But like to have them be able to talk to the whales, that came out of left field to me a little bit.
It was kind of cartoonish, very Disney-esque. The whales had a lot of personality.
Oh yeah, dude. They had a lot of personality.
Which, I mean, they tried reinforcing the fact that they had all this personality because they were super smart. They were intelligent. Mathematics, language, ecosystem, culture. Like, they're a very smart species.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how they tried reinforcing the fact that they have a lot of personality, these whales.
But when I know more about a whale in the movie than the oldest son...
yeah, there's an issue there, right?
Yeah, I feel like there's a disconnect there for me. So, I don't know. Yeah, it was...
Yeah.
Like I said, like the side quest kind of. Yeah. I felt like there was some side quests in here, but
some filler.
Yeah, for sure, filler episodes.
Absolutely, and it's so funny because do you remember the scene where the oldest son and the youngest son were fighting? Like the youngest son was saying, "I have to go save my bro," referring to the whale, and the oldest son's like, "I am your bro."
Yeah. Cheesy, bro.
Just a little bit.
It didn't hit for me.
It's like, all right, so the youngest son now feels as though this whale, there's more of a connection there, which I mean, I could see. And they even went as far as connecting each other through like their Neuralink thing. And I mean, he got to see the past of the whales, which everyone was kind of going against because the whale had obviously the legacy of being super bad, killing all these people, killing all these whales. So, again.
I mean, we've gone into it now. So overall, what would you say? Like, what did you enjoy it? Did you think it was a good sequel or what?
Yeah, I really enjoyed the introduction of the ocean side, the water people, the way of the water. I thought that was super cool.
Yeah.
And before we get into like what the plans are in the next sequels, I think this was a good way to introduce more of the world building itself, more of Pandora, showing the different ecosystems and the differences between the Na'vi. Right, you have the jungle people and then you have the water people. You can see they have different tails. They survive underwater longer, better swimmers, so you can really see the adaptations between the different species, or at least different versions of the Na'vi. So that I really enjoyed. There were some parts of the movie that I didn't really enjoy, and that's just the writing itself was kind of like, obviously you have the Colonel come back from the first movie, and he's kind of the overall villain of the film, right?
Again.
Quaritch, I think his name was Colonel Quaritch, and now he's in a Na'vi body because they transferred his emotions and his mind into this new body. So you have like this end sequence, which the battle at the end was kind of cool.
Yeah,
I liked the battle, and then you had the sinking ship. What I didn't enjoy, however, was you had all the water people kind of go with Jake after they captured the kids on the boat and stuff. So you have this huge anticipated waterfront of soldiers ready, standing on guard to face Quaritch and his people on this boat. And then the battle commences.
Yeah.
Where did the water people go?
I know, yeah.
What happened
about
there?
That too. Like at the very end of the movie, I'm like, where did everybody go?
Where are the water people?
Yeah, they just weren't there. I was thinking about that too.
Yeah.
I was like, did they just leave? Like, did they not say anything?
Yeah.
I was pretty confused.
Because you see them all charge, right? You see them all start swimming, and they're super cool. What was that, like a flying... What was that thing they were on?
It's kind of similar to like the dragons, I guess, they have in the forest, but they're water-based.
Right, water-based Pokemon.
Yeah.
And so, you see them take charge. But then once they get on the boat and stuff, where are they at?
Yeah.
I would assume that they'd hop on the boat as well and start fighting. You'd see all these soldiers fighting and whatnot.
Nothing.
Didn't happen.
I know. Yeah, it was weird. And for the last fight scene, this is just like a little, I guess, gripe I had with it. As far as just technically the editing, I thought it was so choppy with the running away scenes, I guess. So the main fight is going down, and then you just see 2 other instances of people trying to escape water, which is fine. Like they're intense moments, but like this is like the pinnacle fight of the movie.
Absolutely.
And I feel like I'm not seeing it too much, like as much as I want to be. That was just like a technical like thing for me at the end, where I was like, I just want to see them fight. I don't want to see these 2 other, 4 other characters running away from water.
So you're talking about the point where Quaritch and Jake are fighting, right?
Right.
And then it cuts to all these other different perspectives of them kind of trying to escape the boat and stuff. I see. And I mean, I feel like it's at fault because there's a lot going on in general.
There was.
So they're trying to include all that into it, right? So yes, I definitely see that as well. But overall, I mean, I liked it. Again, it didn't seem like a long film, even though it was 3+ hours. I think it was paced well, and they're definitely obviously setting up for the sequels, which is confirmed. They're going to be releasing a 3rd one, 4th one, and talks about a 5th one if it gets to that point, which we'll talk about. And kind of going back to the characters, Sigourney Weaver's character, there's a lot of unanswered questions there in terms of how she came about, who her father is, why can she control the environment around her. She kind of has this like divine intervention power, so to speak, and unanswered. But it's because they're going to use her to set up the following films, which I feel like she'll be a very prominent character in, right? So what do you think of that?
I mean, she was kind of an enigma a little bit, like, for the story. I mean, she did have a lot of unanswered questions, and I like her character. I mean, I like the idea of having a character surrounded, based off of Sigourney Weaver's character in the first one, just because I did like her character a lot in the first one. But they're definitely going through some loopholes to get there, to like have that storyline be there. So
absolutely,
did it feel a little inserted into the film? To me, yeah. And I felt the same way, honestly, about Spider's character a little bit. He felt like an inserted part to like cause this, tension, I guess, or whatever. I don't know.
Sure.
But I like her character.
Sure.
I like her character.
So let me ask you, who's the dad?
Who's the dad?
Did he go out for milk? Is he coming back? So what's the deal there?
No, they were kind of teasing that it's that other scientist that was with her, right?
Right, they were really, they were trying to tease that and push it for sure. Right. I saw that, which I don't think is the case. I have my own theory for it.
Okay. Did you want to expand on that?
Yeah, just a little bit.
Okay.
And I was just seeing this because I was on Twitter afterwards, and I was seeing like this thread of people discussing theories and whatnot. Like, was she pregnant already before she died? Right, in the first movie, you see Sigourney Weaver's human body as well as her avatar. They're trying to do that ritual where they transfer her human consciousness into the avatar, and it fails, right? She dies.
Yeah.
But and I agree with this theory on Twitter. They're saying that her consciousness was instead transferred into the divine tree, the spiritual tree. So she's now part of the world of Pandora, right? So you have Awa, which is kind of like this divine intervention. That's what they praise, like the God for their people, what they believe in. So people are saying her consciousness got transferred into that. So her getting pregnant, her Navi body, right, was more so of a divine intervention of Awa bringing herself into the flesh, kind of like in religion, like Jesus and God.
Gotcha.
God sent his son Jesus to walk the earth and kind of be in that flesh. People are saying Awa now sent Kitty, I think is her name.
Yeah.
To be that, to be Awa in flesh, in that personal form. You know what I mean? Which would explain why she has these like weird, like intense feelings of feeling the earth, feeling Pandora. She mentioned she felt the heartbeat getting stronger.
Right.
It also explains why she has this weird power to control the environment. She was controlling the fish. She was able to connect to the environment and use like the plants and stuff.
Right.
Which is interesting.
That explains a lot. Yeah, that would explain pretty much everything for the most part. Yeah.
So that's a theory going around, and I really see that. I think the whole like, oh, maybe the scientist was the dad and stuff, was to kind of throw you off from the actual, case. So I like that theory, and I hope that the following installments really kind of touch upon that in a good way. But yeah, I liked her character, and it was interesting to see Sigourney Weaver now voice that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was an interesting decision. Yeah. But yeah, I like it. I mean, I did like it as a sequel overall. I mean, I wouldn't have liked it as much if I didn't know there were more movies coming out.
Okay.
I will say that as a standalone sequel, I would have been pretty disappointed if that was just the second movie and it ended there. I would have thought, okay, like especially with the oldest son situation, like getting to not know him at all, pretty much.
Yeah.
But the fact that they're continuing the storyline, I liked it, and
Absolutely.
I would definitely go see the third one for sure.
Yeah, so it's funny you mentioned the third one. It was actually filmed alongside the second one, back to back.
Yeah, I remember.
Simultaneously. So as far as we know, the third one is already filmed.
Wow.
Right, and now the third one, the fourth one, and the fifth one, if it comes to it, will be released in 2-year intervals. So every 2 years, we'll get a new Avatar.
Okay.
Which is insane to me because of how much production goes into it, how expansive the film is.
Yeah, and the fact that our expectation is to have to wait 10 years.
That was crazy. But and James Cameron came out and said that the fourth one and fifth one wouldn't even be a possibility unless the second one broke records in the box office. I'm talking top 4 grossing in history
ever.
Just because it's so expensive. He said,
oh yeah,
so
dude.
expensive to make.
I mean, if you look at it, this was on Moist Critical's channel when I was watching him. He did a review of Avatar, and something he said was like, it was impressive. It was really impressive to him that they were able to up the visuals and even like bring it even like to more like even crazier level than they did in the first one. Because the first one really was groundbreaking in its own right, just overall with motion capture and just like animation and stuff. But like these graphics are really like, they're amazing in this new movie. They're so visually pleasing. They're so beautiful, and that's why you can kind of like take these like moments like with the whale and stuff and kind of like, set them aside as like, maybe it's not the best storytelling. Maybe it's kind of, phoned in there a little bit.
Absolutely.
But it's just beautiful to watch because it looks so good.
It looks crisp. And you know why it is, right? So during parts where it was like in the air, in the water, to get a really crisp environment and a really crisp visual, they actually went from 24 to 60 frames per second in those specific areas.
Yeah,
but when it went back to like a character interaction, they went back to 24 frames. But in those visually appealing sections, they upped it to like 60 frames.
That's cool. Yeah, that makes sense.
To make it even more crisp.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's why it looked beautiful.
Yeah.
Right.
It's funny how 24 frames is really like just the staple.
It still is, right?
It's still the staple. That's crazy. Just cause, it's crazy.
Absolutely. So now going forward with the sequels, it's confirmed that, again, the third one's filmed. The fourth one is written, which is funny. He got some notes from there. And the fifth one, it hasn't been confirmed that it's like done in the writing process, the pre-production and stuff. But they're definitely working on it.
Okay.
And so, and like I mentioned earlier, the fourth one and fifth one wouldn't be possible unless Way of the Water broke records, which it did. So the third one, I think, is going to continue. But they're so damn expensive.
Oh, yeah, dude. They must be.
Yeah. So we'll see what the sequels look like. In my opinion, I would truly, really like to see the different other versions of the Na'vi. Like, for example, in other sections of Pandora, in different terrains and atmospheres. For example, like sand dunes or like fire, like in volcano areas. Imagine the differences in their bodies, the different ways they look and stuff. Because the water people already looked super cool. Oh, they had like more of a teal kind of tint to them. They had the cool designs on them and stuff. The tails were different. That was cool to see. So imagine like a fire version of that, or somewhere in the sand, different versions of that. Just different terrains.
That idea. I like, because that's kind of what this one set like an expectation a little bit to me, is that's kind of what the direction they might go with it. Visiting absolutely. These different areas, and kind of that's what it seemed like to me. Could be a possibility.
Could be.
So I like that idea.
Yeah, but
because it'd just be really visually pleasing to see all these different,
absolutely
in their own environments.
So what's the goal with Avatar? Where do you think James Cameron wants to go? Like, what's the final goal of, let's say they get to the fifth movie?
Like storyline?
Yeah.
Wise?
Like, where does it end?
I don't know, dude, because, I mean, is the Colonel going to be the villain the entire time?
It seems that way.
Like,
it
throughout
seems that
all
way.
the movies?
It seems that way. And
Dude.
it'd be cool to see the Colonel, you know how he's now in his Na'vi body? It would be cool to see a changing character in him joining sides with Jake. Embracing that Na'vi side for them to fully come together and tackle like the ultimate whatever antagonist boss.
Well, he's an interesting character, him in his new form, because he's not the actual Colonel. He's just kind of got his memories, right?
Yeah.
So he hasn't actually experienced anything the Colonel has gone through.
Yeah.
So he could be a really interesting character.
For sure.
Like, for example, he becomes like self-aware.
Absolutely.
Of, like, that he's just kind of a clone.
Absolutely.
That could be really cool.
What if he breaks through and has the thought of, why am I even trying to kill this guy?
Right.
Like, I'm no longer that colonel. Is the U.S. military, the sky people using me just to try to get their way?
Exactly.
And then he changes over and has that kind of breakthrough. That'd be super cool.
I like that idea a
that'd
lot.
be a great idea.
I think he has potential to be a really interesting character, but if he turns at some point, I mean, I don't know if that would take place, movies later, or if that would take place soon.
Sure.
After him, I don't know who your villain is really. So
absolutely. So
I think it kind of ends with something between the Colonel and Sully.
Yeah.
I keep calling him Sully Jake.
Jake, yeah. So let's keep that in mind. Once you write that down, so we can email James Cameron and give him our notes for the film.
Yeah.
But I like the movie. There's a lot of world building was done, and I love world building.
Oh yeah.
I love to see what kind of world they're living in, and they mentioned like the sky people came to Pandora not only now to just get resources, but now to do a full transition of moving people there because Earth is dying, which is kind of happening now with us.
Yeah.
But they're trying to
relatable.
Yeah, relatable, right? They're on the agenda of inhabiting the planet now, which so we'll see.
Yeah, and you asked like, what is James Cameron's like? Where is he going with this? I think his goal with it in general, like Avatar, is kind of like this is his Star Wars, or this is his, this is his cinematic universe kind of that he's building. I think he's doing a good job. There are a couple characters that I think don't have as much depth as I'd like them to have, a little bit surface level, but they're fun to watch. I do like watching them a lot.
Absolutely. So, I would like to see a time skip where the children get older. I think that'd be cool.
Same.
That'd be super dope. So final thoughts on that. That was really cool.